my VIP cohort ready to lend an ear. The topic that we're going to be unpacking today is speeches. The reason that we're going to go over speeches is because they have an importance of conveying a message across. If we don't allow ourselves to convey something important or try to make something that's very impactful, we will have not as much of a great public speaking experience. We'll become more afraid, we'll be very nervous around others, and it's just very good to be able to stand up and do the things and say the words that are important to rally people. Because that brings up morale, it brings conviction, resolve, and so many other benefits if we do this right. So, one thing that I find nowadays when we hear speeches, the only great ones that we hear is like from CEOs, and then even then they're still kind of like meh. And even in movies and so forth, if we bring up just the Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, there's some good ones. Yeah, it's not like hitting. Anime has some. Yeah, you gotta go through many and figure out like which ones are there. Yeah, there's one from the 40K universe that was done by Sanguinius, and it was like the Eternity Gate. That was one of the best speeches I've ever heard, in the regards of how it conveyed over like a long, grim campaign that was been like getting pushed back, and there's like no escape really, and it's like nearly like everything seems lost, and he brings it back and he just like rallies everyone together. He speaks not so much of like this great leader, but as just a human side, and also like his demigod side, because he's a Primarch and he's like gifted these higher elevation by just being a Primarch. So, away from that, why would I give that emphasis? And I highly recommend on your own end, look that up. Sanguinius's speech at the Eternity Gate, phenomenal. Why do I recommend that one? Study it, look at it, because that's where this framework's going to go into. I created a speech on Claude, inspired by that, and then with my own touches. And then I pretty much did an amendment to it, because Claude can bring in the hyphens and the rule of three, and that's a commonplace with a large language model. So you want to make sure to like tell it, hey, don't do the rules of three, get out the hyphens, give it a little argument so it gets a little more procured rightly and gets that voice that you want it to have. So without further ado, let's enter the speech, and I'm going to say it to you. All right, so here's the speech. I'm going to just read it off to you. This is what it made. It's in the markdown file. Before the gate, a Vipelex address. That's the title. I stood at this gate before, not this one exactly, but its shape is familiar. I know the weight of it. I know what waits on the other side, because I've already walked through the gates like it, and I didn't walk through them unchanged. So let me tell you what I know before we go any further. This will cost you something. It always does. And that's not a warning. It's a deterrent, not for you to turn back. It separates what one's standing at the end from the ones who were only ever passing through. Every gate worth walking through has a price stitched into the frame of it. The people who tell you otherwise are selling you a door that leads nowhere. I didn't choose this fight because I loved it. I chose it because it was necessary. I looked at the field and didn't see anyone else standing at this particular gate. I saw a system built to keep people circling around outside of it forever. And I told that patience alone would open the door for them eventually. I've read enough history, enough philosophy, the ledgers that quietly govern people's lives to know that the door was never going to open on its own. So I stopped waiting for it. I didn't come to this with passion, and I wanted to be honest with you about that. Not in honesty's perspective. Passion burns hot and dies young, and this fight doesn't reward the kind of fire I I came to this with the same type of purpose. And that kind puts the armor on, not because it feels good against the skin, but because someone has to wear it. And I am willing that the only kind of calling that survives with a gate like this one, what waits on the other side isn't the monster with a name. It's quieter than that. It's harder to kill. The credit score standing for a person's worth, a debt treated like the weather instead of the what is actually, is a structure built by someone that can be studied, dismantled by anyone patient enough to learn its architecture. Scarcity dressed up as the inevitability. That's the real thing I'm fighting. Not against people, against the idea literacy belongs behind a gate reserved for the few. I don't believe that. And I spent years, hundreds of books convincing myself that it isn't true. And I'm done keeping that conviction to myself. This is what Vipelex is. It's the gate opened, not guarded. Every framework I've built, the way I teach people to see their own three currencies, to think like a merchant knight as the ethos, instead of a passenger in their own financial life. I was never meant to sit behind a paywall dressed up as wisdom. I give the substance away first, and I always will. What people pay for later is the structure around it, not that truth itself. That was never for sale. By 2030, I want debt eliminated, a balance sheet strong enough to carry the real weight. I want income that keeps moving, even on the days I'm not the one pushing it. And I want to look back at this gate and see it worn down from how many people walked through it after I did. And I'm not asking anyone to follow me because this fight is glorious. It is. It's long, and most of it happens after everyone else has gone to sleep. I'm asking you to walk through this. Walk through it anyway. On the other side of this gate is a version of your life where the system finally works, and for you instead of all around you. That's the worth the cost. Let's go through. Will you go through? And let's go through it together. Alrighty, that's the end of it. And that was my speech to you. And let me switch scenes back. Alrighty. So from there, I spoke the speech. I did improvisation because some of the things, I wanted my own touch with it. I still followed most of the framework. I read it for line to line. If I studied it even further, what I would do is pretty much memorize it. Get it into like a song format and get it rhythmized into me. Spend hours and hours on end on that type of script. And speech. Because the script and speech kind of interwoven in that regard. Nevertheless, you see how I played with my words? I probably needed to smile a little more, give a little tilt, but it was more serious, so that wasn't really the case with it. Now, if I was like, it's going to be a rough one. The smile of tomorrow is just another day. And we will just have to go through. Let's go through. And this will be our testament. You see, I ended off on a lower tone. Have maybe a little smile there. But you want to give that little warmth, but also like that we're digging in on this. And that's probably what the speech was trying to convey. Now, if I was like, let's innovate. Today is the day that we must be in our workshops, tinkering, seeing what works, innovation, understand how a payment gateway comes together. And with all these, think of them little ideas on a post-it note, all around on this board. And we're just coming together for that one post-it note that symbolizes this whole idea of innovation in the workshop. False. You see how I'm doing that? That one is more like uplifting. And like, we're doing this together, innovations and so forth. So I would be more cheerful in this regard, that we're doing something that's combining much together. This one is more or less we've gone through the grueling challenge. And what I might ask is even more than what we've done before. We might have to drill more. We might have to go through long nights. And we may not see this come out into fruition. Nevertheless, that's how it be. That's what this whole speech is coming to. I highly recommend the sanguineous thing, once again, so then it does that. Deuces.